What's up everybody, my name is Wayfan1, the incredibly underqualified YouTuber, and today we're talking about one of the greatest things to happen to the world since the invention of the toaster, and that is punk music. But we're not just going to be talking about any old punk music, we're going to be talking about Operation Ivy. In this video I'm covering the effects Operation Ivy had on punk, but more importantly ska punk, as they influenced a whole generation of punk after 1987 and brought ska to mainstream media. Later down the video, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on Operation Ivy and why I think they're important to punk and ska as a whole. Without further ado, let's pick up our punk chains, spray paint our hair, and mosh our way into today's video. While we're looking at Operation Ivy, it's important to look back to what the members were doing before Operation Ivy was even formed or even considered a band. Prior to the formation of Operation Ivy, Tim Armstrong and Matt Freeman were in a band called Basic Radio. Not much was known about this band, and I could only find some outdated articles and very little footage online, but this band was very short-lived and led to the eventual split up of the band. So Armstrong and Freeman got Jesse Michaels for vocals and Dave Mello for drums, and in 1987 Operation would be officially formed and they would start performing in 1987. Their first show was in 1987 in the drummer's garage, and after doing many shows, Operation Ivy would quickly gain a cult following during their tours and shows. After doing many shows and many tours, they would make a compilation album called Turn It Around. Later in 1988, they would sign out to Lookout Records and release their 7-inch record Hectics, which would be on Lookout's best-selling records of 1987. After doing some more touring and shows in 1988, they would start performing at large-scale venues and selling out almost instantly. While things were looking good for Operation Ivy and everyone in the band, eventually things would take a downfall. During a show, a record company called EMI would contact the band and offer to sign them onto their records and have a major label deal. But because the band was touring extensively and doing shows in venues between 1987 and 1989, the band was really unsure how to react and what they should go for. And upon hearing the information, after many debates, the band would sadly and unfortunately break up, and rather than compromising what they stood for, they just broke up. Before the official breakup of the band, they would release their one and only studio album called Energy through Lookout Records in 1989. The band did do one last live tour, and after that they broke up in May of 1989. However, after the showing, they ended up doing one last real unofficial show in one of their friends' backyards, and after that, the true last show was in May of 1989. While the band was very short-lived and only released one full-length album, the band had very little mainstream success and would maintain a large underground following and influence many bands throughout the years. In 1997, a tribute album was made with varying artists such as Real Big Fish, Long Beach Dub All-Stars, and the Aquabats. The album would be called Take Warning, The Songs of Operation Ivy. The album had 13 songs, all of them being covers of the most popular songs off Energy. After the split up of Operation Ivy, the band went in separate directions for everyone. But, however, for two. For Tim Armstrong and Matt Freeman, they would begin another band known as Rancid, and to this day, as of 2023, they're still making and producing music under the Rancid band name. The drummer, Dave Mello, would perform in another punk band called Schlong. However, after that, I just couldn't find anything else on him, so it's safe to say that he just lives a normal life now. Jesse Michaels, on the other hand, would join different bands such as Big Rig, Common Writer, and Classics of Love, serving as a vocalist and also a producer for some of the band's music. A few years after the band splitting up in 2006, the previous band's record company, Lookout Records, would remove Energy from their catalog, and after the band and other bands would leave Lookout Records for unpaid royalties. Later in 2007, the album will be put on Tim Armstrong's catalog and record company, Hellcat Records, where you can now listen to Energy just about on every single streaming service you can think of. While the band may have had a short lifespan, it defined an era of punk and ska. Countless bands would be formed having a quote-unquote ska punk base, such as Goldfinger, The Suicide Machines, No Doubt, and many other bands of that nature. And while ska punk has since left the mainstream spotlight, it's important to know why Operation Ivy was such a big deal and such a revolution for ska punk. Many of their songs were bold and nobody had done their music in their time. The closest thing anyone had done to ska or punk of that nature would be the Specials, who popularized ska in music. To give you an idea of what I'm talking about, here's some examples.
Better think of your future. Time is straighten right out.
I always look up to the ones who walk away, doing themselves in the beat that way. I'm looking at future ahead, over present they live for. Are you never gonna
Started with a crazy kiss on our way home.
wide open, roar the future now? Fucking now.
Now that you see what I mean, let's finish up this video with my personal thoughts. Operation Ivy would go on to define an era of punk, and nobody did it better than them, and with only one studio album to their name, it's impressive how they managed to make such an impact on one genre. The early 90s would see the rise of punk and ska, with many bands like Goldfinger adding to the ska genre. After the 2000s rolled around, the ska punk scene would die down and go back to being underground, as mainstream media would focus more on pop and more marketable music. Operation Ivy will always be the band that will be remembered as the band that defined a genre. That's all I have to say about Operation Ivy for being my first essay video. I really enjoyed working on this. If you'd like to see more essay type videos like this, like the video and consider subscribing as it helps out the channel a whole lot. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye everybody.